Making an episode of a live-action show is a lot like baking a pie. To make a good one requires equal parts hard work, time, and love. If you succeed, you'll create something great to be enjoyed by everyone. But if you are missing even one of the key ingredients,
you will fail, and it will burn,
leaving a lingering scent. My name is Pieguyrulz, and I'm here at the bottom of the bakery to smell that pie. Metaphorically speaking, of course. In reality, I'm here to talk to you guys about an episode of a Schneider's Bakery show that was really not good. So Sam and Cat is way worse than iCarly. Last night I was watching some iCarly episodes to look for material to feature on this show. And to be honest, everything I saw was just kind of boring and unfunny. Nothing particularly horrendous that I really wanted to focus another video on. This show is about the worst of the worst after all. We're definitely not at a point where I'm just gonna start reviewing episodes just for being boring. So looking for something a lot worse, I headed over to Sam and Cat. Because everyone told me that pretty much every episode of Sam and Cat is bad in one way or another. And wouldn't you know it, the very first episode I watched was bad enough to definitely be featured on the show. Hashtag MyPoober. Sheesh, between the hashtag and the stupid word, I sound like a 5-year-old just saying the title of the episode. I certainly wasn't sold about the whole babysitting premise from the pilot, and this episode definitely shows all the worst parts of it. Ugh, this episode is like a pineapple upside down cake, in that its thinking is very upside down. This time I only have one minor complaint before we get into the two gigantic problems. So if you're not aware, I'm not a big fan of laugh tracks. But you know what I hate even more than the laughter in laugh tracks? When they decide to add in a freaking applause. Look, back in the old days when there actually was a studio audience, the audience would applaud when an actor would do something particularly impressive, like show off a physical skill like juggling or singing. It was something that the actor actually performed and deserved applause for. And for longer running shows, actors would get applause just for their entrance into the episode, because the people liked the characters so much. Do you know where the fake applause is located in this episode? It is located when Sam and Cat get their money back, which has nothing to do with either of the actresses or anyone in the show doing anything remotely impressive. It's a part of the story. You wrote it in. It means virtually nothing. I understand the purpose of the laughter is because laughter is contagious, and if you put laughter in your show, you're hoping it'll make the people at home laugh. I think it's particularly stupid, but I understand why it's there. This applauding? What is it here for? Am I really gonna be sitting by myself in my dorm room clapping that these two chuckleheads got their money back? It's just such a stupid practice, and it drives me nuts, especially because it's only there for like a second. Why even put it in? Do you trust in your audience that little that you think they don't know when they should be happy for the characters? Ugh. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get to the two big problems. And the first one is the characters. Since this is the first Sam and Cat episode I'm reviewing that actually has the characters acting like themselves, instead of just bland parodies of Silence of the Lambs, and seeing as their behavior in this episode is particularly annoying, this is as good a time as any to complain about how poorly written the characters on this show are. So, let's start with Sam. How does Sam act in this episode? She threatens to beat a little girl with a baseball bat several times, gets so frustrated that she hits a tree until it literally falls over, and lunges across the table at a little girl just because said girl had found out that Sam has a criminal record. And the show, of course, treats this for laughs. Here's the thing. I get what the show is trying to do. It's trying to make all of these dark jokes about harming this kid with a character like Sam, because hey, according to the show, Sam isn't really that bad. She totally would never actually hit a kid. Except, no, I believe she actually would hit this kid. I've seen her beat the tar out of Freddy, and it looks like Cat is the only reason she does not actually assault this little girl. And as you may have guessed, the show is definitely not clever enough to pull off dark humor like this. It just feels so off. And part of the problem with Sam's character is how two-faced she feels. A lot of the time when she's not acting violent, she's a pretty pleasant character. She's funny and charming and occasionally occasionally crass, she's alright. And I think most of that credit comes from the fact that Jeanette McCurdy is a good actress, and very likable. But that part of her personality makes it even worse when she just violently snaps. It feels like she's definitely struggling with some kind of weird anger that she definitely needs to get checked out. Oh, and I love the idea that these parents that are trusting Sam and Kat to babysit their kids have no idea of Sam's criminal record. It's just downright creepy how horrible of a person she is, yet she's still allowed to babysit children. And then there's Kat. She's weird, stupid, and has an annoying voice. That's pretty much as deep as her character goes. She's typically portrayed as nice, but if she was actually nice, much like Carly, she should actually be reporting Sam for her horrible actions instead of just putting up with it. And then there's Goomer. I've never spoken about Goomer before because he wasn't a thing when the pilot existed. He came on a little bit later in the show, much like Gibby. He is an MMA fighter who has brain damage. Like, legitimate brain damage. In this episode, the guy cannot actually count down from 10, and this is played for laughs. And this is the first season of the show too. Imagine if this show went on for multiple seasons. How much stupider could you make a character? And as if that wasn't bad enough, he is completely and utterly useless to the dichotomy of the show. Who are the main characters? A violent, crude girl, and a stupid, weird girl. So why would you add to the show a character who is both violent and stupid? I seriously see no point in it. Sam's already tough enough to be the muscle of the group, and Kat is definitely stupid enough to carry out the stupid plots that happen in these shows. To be fair though, I don't know a lot about the character, and I've only seen a few episodes that he's in, so maybe I'm not getting the whole story there. And of the main characters we see in this episode, Dice is the only one that gets a pass. He seems like a relatively decent character. But hey, that may change as I see more episodes. Now let's get to the girl they're babysitting this episode. She's about 11. One of the terrible byproducts of the stupid babysitting thing is that we get tons and tons of these little kid actors. And there's two things that can go very wrong with this. One, the actor cannot be so good because, hey, kid actors aren't good in general. And B, if the character is written like an actual child, the character is going to be whiny and annoying. And while I don't want to rag on any of the kid actors that appear on this show, I definitely want to rag on the writing for making a lot of them very annoying. Here's the thing, she's the bad guy of the episode, and honestly I'm kinda rooting for her, but that's hard to do when she's just plain whiny. They could have made her into some sort of maniacal little manipulator or something like that, but no, she's just an annoying little brat who gets one smart idea of how to annoy Sam and Kat. But more on the characters later. Right now, we need to talk about the plot. So, Sam and Kat decide to hide their money in a fake pineapple. Sam explicitly tells Kat to keep this a secret. Then they get a babysitting gig when these parents want them to watch their little 11-year-old girl. Said girl also clings to her stuffed animal, Pooh Bear, which may or may not be a play on Pooh Bear. Since the parents don't know what else to do, they decide to tell Sam and Kat that there's a nice bonus in it for them if they can get the girl to give up the stuffed animal. The girl puts up a gigantic fuss at first, but then, after Kat reveals that they keep money in the fake pineapple, the girl mysteriously just decides to give up her Pooh Bear. Sam and Kat decide to launch Pooh Bear in a toy spaceship because apparently throwing it into the garbage would make it come back to haunt them. The girl acts suspiciously okay with them doing this until it's revealed that, surprise, surprise, she took her Pooh Bear out of the rocket and put Sam and Kat's money in. And then there's an ending, which I'll get to. But first, I want to talk about how stupid and predictable this plot is. When Sam has to have Kat reassure her that Kat will not spill the beans about the secret, it is very clear to anyone who has at least a mild knowledge of how television plots work that Kat is going to tell someone. It is also incredibly obvious based upon her reaction that the little girl is not over Pooh Bear and has something crazy up her sleeve. Combined with the fact that she knows about the money, which was made such a big deal about earlier in the episode, and you have a very predictable plot. And when I already don't like these characters, to have the plot be this stupid and predictable, man, it just makes there be nothing in this episode that is enjoyable at all. Also, I really have to wonder what the kid would have done if Sam had just thrown the thing away. She had no idea they were going to use the rocket until afterwards. So maybe she really was willing to give up Pooh Bear until Sam and Kat came up with this really over-the-top way to get rid of the thing? Or is the implication that the girl would have found a way no matter what? Although I find that hard to believe considering Sam could have just gone out to the local fast food restaurant and thrown it in the dumpster there while Kat watched the little girl and nothing bad would ever happen. Actually, thinking about it logically, why don't Sam and Kat just split up? Have one of them babysit the kids while the other one goes on the wacky scheme of the week. I know that doesn't make for great television, but isn't that the logical thing to do? Although, knowing how each of the girls act, Sam would probably murder whatever kid they're supposed to be babysitting, and Kat would probably get herself killed because she's just that stupid. And let's talk about the ending. Holy cow, is this one of the cruelest and lamest endings I have ever seen. After the girl launches the money in the rocket, Sam and Kat track it down to this graveyard where they eventually find it and get the money back. So even though, in the end, Sam and Kat come out on top and didn't lose a single thing because of this girl, they decide to leave the kid at the cemetery with this creepy guy. That is the ending. The last shot is them driving away incredibly happy, while the laugh track plays. From every angle, this is a horrible ending. If the show is trying to go for any sort of realism, this just blows it right out of the water. First of all, they would never have another babysitting gig ever again, because either A, they eventually went back and got the kid to return her to her parents, and she told them all of the horrible things that happened to her throughout the episode, or B, something way worse happened to that little girl. I mean, they leave her in a cemetery at night with a creepy guy. There are a plethora of horrible things that can happen here, and I'm not talking about zombies coming back from the dead. But alright, even dropping the realism angle, even if we just sit here and say, you know what, this is a completely fictional world so they can do whatever they want. Well, story-wise, I have a major problem with this ending because we have no idea what happens to this little girl. Do Sam and Kat and everyone else go back for her after 5 minutes? Do they leave her there all night until she's learned her lesson? We have no idea. The characters just kind of run away and the episode ends. There's not really any satisfaction in seeing this girl just kind of look awkward as these people have left her there. Wouldn't a more satisfying ending be something happening to her poober? Like if they took her back to Sam and Kat's place and then locked her in the bathroom while they violently tore up poober. Wouldn't that have been a more satisfying ending and more of a fitting punishment than what she got? The fact that she gets to keep her poober in the end really bugs me. And lastly, let's talk about how horrible these characters are for doing this to this girl. Jeez, at the end of the day, the girl didn't cost them anything. They got their freaking money back. Why is it that that is not enough of a happy ending for them? They need to get their revenge on this 11-year-old girl. It makes our main characters seem incredibly petty. You know, when Drake and Josh acted like horrible people, they got punished for it. Big time. How are these people able to be responsible for little kids if they are not even mature enough to understand that kids will be kids? They might do stupid stuff, but you cannot retaliate against them. That's just wrong. So to recap, this ending makes the characters look really bad, breaks any sense of realism, is ambiguous as to what actually happens to this girl, and is in no way a fitting punishment for her actions in the episode. Much like the rest of the episode, it is dumb. So let's see how that cake turned out, shall we? For those of you who don't know, it's called pineapple upside down because you put the cherries and pineapples on the bottom of the pan under the batter, and then when it's done, you flip it over. Ooh, would you look at that? They completely failed at that last step, didn't they? When they were flipping it over, they must have split it right in half. And wait a second, is that money in there? Did they actually put money inside this thing? I can't believe it. They burned money. Huh. Imagine that. Oh, and trust me, I've only scratched the surface on Sam's character and why it's so horrible. Pieguyrulz, out.